coming from a powerful voice like Beyonce, she just took us all back to our roots, to a simpler times.
We have with us the editorial director of R&B and hip hop for Billboard, Ms. Gail Mitchell. Please give her a round of applause. I'm sorry, I gotta make more noise for Gail than that. Don't do that. And we have from Nashville, also with Billboard, covering all things country. Please put your hands together for Miss Melinda Newman, y'all. And coming to the stage, Jada Watson is an assistant professor of digital humanities in the School of Information Studies at the University of Ottawa. Principal investigator of the Song Data Project, Jada Research Center on Historical Racial Gender Equality in Country Music via Data-Driven Studies. She is a subject matter expert in this. What we're gonna learn from her tonight and today is serious information. So please put your hands together for who we like to call Data Jada, Dr. Jada Watson, y'all. Please put your hands together. This next artist, singer, songwriter, I met probably about a decade ago in Atlanta. And she was wearing her cowboy hat then. And she's been fighting and pushing this narrative and pushing for country music to be part of our story like everything else. And I'm so happy of the success that she has. Not only has she written and wrote records on many of your favorite artists, she also participated on this new Beyonce project. She also wrote on this new Beyonce project. And she also have her own single out with the Chainsmokers. That's over 8 million streams. So please put your hands together for the one and only Ink, y'all. Ink. In true Ink fashion. Make some noise for it, y'all. Make some noise for the outfit, goddamn.
I lost my phone. It's somewhere out there. If you see a phone, just holler at me.
Okay, we know you had it. So,
how y'all doing?
Prophet, before we start, do you just want to pull over your chair? Because we're going to involve you in some of this. Excellent.
All right, let's roll.
Let's roll. So I'm going to start with Jada. So much of the history of country music involves black artists, whether it's DeFord Bailey or Rufus T-Top Payne or Linda Martell or Mickey or Charlie Pride. What kind of education efforts do you feel need to be made to have people actually understand that the banjo came from Africa and much of what they hear on country radio is the direct result of African and black influences?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. And I also will start with
here.
A big thank you to Prophet and Ann for bringing me down. It's an honor to be here. I feel like that's the most important question, really. I've been doing this data-driven work for a long time, and the thing that constantly surprises me is how little folks acknowledge the roots of the industry in general and country specifically. And so one of the things that I've made it my mission to do in my work is to speak about those origins and to talk about how, you know, the recording industry, when it was being developed in the 1920s, was racially segregated. Hillbilly music and race records. And these became classification categories through which music would be recorded and then marketed. So if we just focus on hillbilly records, that was music. That was a label that was used to record white artists and then to promote them to white audiences. And this became, over time, country music. So it's really important to understand that, and we can't just stop at labels, because this was not just, you know, a categorization system within the record industry. Radio was racially segregated as well. So then you have this music being performed on at the time and later played on format radio that was run by white folks, that was predominantly a white listenership. And then in the 1940s, Billboard charts launched. And so if you think about all of these structural organizations or systems that the music industry revolves around, you think labels, radio, charts, all of these things are coded with the same classification system. So if we think about, charts today are called R&B and country, but they were once folk and race records. And then if we go back to those origins with record label, we start to understand why the industry is segregated the way it is. But when you don't know that, when you aren't thinking about that in your daily practice in 2024, you don't realize the way in which you're constantly reproducing this system. Constantly. Every single day. Because if you think about, I'm like a really data-driven person. But one of the things that I think about is when those Billboard charts were being formed, and they were taking record sales and radio airplay to generate tabulations, they were pulling from white-owned stores and from white radio to produce the country chart. But then they were doing the same thing for the R&B chart. So every single decision that was made as a way to build the infrastructure and market music has been racially segregated. And it is 100% still going on today. And if you think your DSPs are any different, they are not. Because those same classifications of R&B and country, what they are today, have their roots in the 1920s segregated industry. And if you are to go on, I'll give you a little example of what happens. So I talk about this with Reese Palmer sometimes. We had a conversation about streaming, and I said something about how streaming ends up like feeding back into the engine. It's actually still doing what radio's doing, only we're led to believe that it's based on our human recommendations. But it's pulling from a training data that is based on the industry, but that is also based on these classification systems. And so what you end up seeing is, am I allowed to name a company?
Go crazy.
Sure. Okay. So think about something like Spotify, who has makes these curated playlists, right? So they have the Black country playlist, they have the Latino country playlist, they have the Women of Country playlist. And so that's the only place you're going to find these artists, because they've been put in this like digital siloed box. So if you then go to Reese Palmer's page and you scroll down to the bottom and you're looking for recommendations, who sounds like, who's like, all of the artists at the bottom of the page are going to be the artists on the Black country playlist, because that's the only place you see Reese Palmer's name in a DSP training data is next to those other artists. And so we really do need to know this education, because the entire industry is data-driven. I mean, Mickey was saying it before, where you put your dollars matter, but it also informs how decisions are made and how these systems are reinforced. That was a bit of a tangent.
Excellent.
Gail and I just
Yeah,
also want to reinforce
y'all can make some noise for that.
that we'll direct our questions to someone, but obviously any of you can then jump in after you want to say that. But I just also want to give a shout out, if for those of you not familiar with Reese Palmer, she hosts a really wonderful show on Apple Music called Color Me Country, named after the Linda Martell album.
And also, she has a movement, the Color Me Country, is also sending kids across the world. And BMAC made a donation. Reese hosted our first panel of 3 Chords at the Live Nation office in New York. So we support her. We appreciate her. Her voice is so necessary.
Yeah.
Very necessary.
Go support her artist grant fund if you can, because that's the fund that sends artists all over the place.
So, Inc., I wanted to talk to you a little bit and have you share as much as you can say, because I know the secrets surrounding Act 2 and as well as Act 1. But did you feel differently writing for Act 2? Did you know ahead of time that it was going to be a country-oriented record? Just, I don't know how much you can say or not say, but, how did you get involved in the project? Maybe we can start there.
Well, first, it was an honor and a pleasure. Anytime you get to work with an artist on their vision and executing their sound and their vision, it's a blessing. Honestly, the whole process just was surprise. It was like, you just work and you create, and then, it comes out, So I just think the process was very special. This one was different because it's so personal, so it was just about her telling her story and just figuring out ways to just aid to the process and the creativity. So I had a great time with it, but it was also very personal because of the songs, it makes you dig deep, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, about other stories. It's about life and love and what drives you and, things like that from the culture aspect. So I think this one was very personal. So it was kind of the origin of how we started making music. It started with this sound.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it worked backwards.
Yeah, and speaking of personal, especially 16 Carriages, that was one of the songs you want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought we was playing games up here? What y'all thought was going on?
Nah, man, 16 Carriages, it was very special. It was our first song that we worked on together.
Wow.
So just the fact to start off a creative relationship started with something so real, something so raw, something so personal. From there we knew, okay, the sky's the limit. Because when you dig deep, that's when you find out where the roots are really going to take you. And so we just dug deep and was like, this is going to be something that transcends time. This is going to give the future, but classic and timeless. And at the end of the day, like you said, everything's set up for paradigms and boxes and division and classism, racism, genderism, all these isms. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's about the song. It's about the song and how it makes you feel. So I think coming from a powerful voice like Beyonce, she just took us all back to our roots, to a simpler time, to where it wasn't about all the fluff. It was just about a story and how it got us through, and each personal life that you live. How does that relate to the music? You know what I'm saying? So like when you're listening to it, you can see your own story, And so, just both of us being from the country and the South.
A piece of your story's there in 16 Carriages as well, right?
I'm from Georgia, so I'm down home. I'm country all day, you know what I'm saying? Georgia in here, okay? Yeah, so it's our way of living too.
Prophet, I want to continue about that, and you and Mickey talked somewhat about this. We're at an inflection point. The country music has been growing by leaps and bounds in terms of its market share, to get geeky about it, and just in terms of the success that country artists are having. And then when you add in Beyonce's record, how do we keep this moment going? You and Mickey were talking about if we don't keep it going, that is a really lost opportunity. So I'd like to hear from all of you, but let's start with Prophet. How does the industry keep it going, and what responsibility do we have to keep it going?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is understand what's happening, right? And so I'm going to yield my time and pass to Dr. Jada so she can help us understand what's happening in this moment. Dr. Jada, if you can you speak to the Beyonce record and then how it didn't impact the other artists? Because I think we need to understand it, Melinda, so that we know what we need to do about it.
Yeah, I think I'll start a little bit with radio. For those of you who don't know, country radio really is the distribution engine that controls the industry. And so a lot of my work looks at radio airplay. And in my work, I found that over the last 22 years, songs by Black women represent less than 1% of airplay. Quite often, we're talking like 0.03%. So in 2023, songs by Black women received 0.02% of the airplay. And so when Texas Hold'em came out, this was the opportunity as far as I was concerned, because she comes with such a global audience for the format to pick up her song and for the industry to build opportunity around it. And they did play the song. I will stress that they played the song. It debuted on the chart within 1 week, which is unprecedented. Usually it takes 6 to 8 weeks for a song to even debut on the chart. And it hit 29 on March 23rd, and it's starting to decline, and I have genuine concerns about that. But what's happening is that country radio is not using that as a pathway. This was like a gift. This was like, this was the gift to say, here's this phenomenal song by one of the most recognizable artists in the world. Play it, but also recognize that you have so many Black women in Nashville that you can play alongside it. You can play Mickey. You can play Reese. You can play Miko Marks. You can play Tanner Adele, Raina Roberts. I'm just going to keep naming a few more. Brittany Spencer, Tiara Kennedy. You can play Roberta Lee, Julie Williams. There are so many. There's a whole collective called the Black Opry. They could be playing their music as well. Madeline Edwards, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many women that they could be playing, and they're not. So if you remove Texas Hold'em from radio, songs by Black women are currently receiving 0.02% of the airplay again. And if you add Texas Hold'em, it's 0.24. So we're still not in a great place.
Yeah, I just want to add to that Texas Hold'em came in at #1 on Hot Country Songs.
Yes.
Which combined streaming and,
Yeah.
and radio. And so there was obviously a demand for it. And additionally, all these women that you just
Yes.
mentioned saw an uptick in their streaming.
Yes.
And some of them very considerable upticks.
Yeah.
And radio still opted not to add these women.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, both Tanner, I don't think it hurts to mention names, both
No.
Tanner and Tiara have lost their deals
Yeah.
around the time that the Beyonce record came out.
Yeah.
And, you're just seeing this, I don't know really how to say it, this intransigence at country radio to, and they're going to say, well, that's not what our listeners want to hear. We try, we test it, and it doesn't get good call outs. As someone who covers this genre and, you do all the crunch the numbers, I don't know what has to change because you're right. You're not going to get a huger artist than
Right.
Beyonce handing you this record that should have been an absolute home run.
Yeah. Yeah.
You this opportunity. I think Beyonce handed them an opportunity
Yes.
to get this shit right,
Yeah.
in a way in which almost irrefutably. So, but those other artists,
Yeah.
even though the streaming data
Yeah.
suggests that there's an appetite for it, terrestrial radio didn't respond.
Correct.
Yeah. And the piece that's interesting is, so absolutely for these 4 remarkable women who are all unsigned except for Brittany Spencer, to be on this song, to have this moment, their Instagram followers have gone up, their Spotify followers have gone up, their monthly listenership has bloody skyrocketed. But the concern, and this is where I'm just nervous, and this is why you need to heed Mickey's advice and stream, is that the conversion rate from followers to actual dedicated listeners has dropped to the floor. So when you actually calculate that shift, it's one thing to go over and follow. It's another thing to keep, as Mickey was saying before, keep listening, keep streaming, come back. Listen to new songs, listen to old songs, because actually that conversion rate is negative right now. And on the one hand, it's fine because there's still like this rise in followers, but that's going to plateau when Beyonce moves on to Act 3, and that conversion rate is through the floor right now. And so if Mickey's advice to me was the most the best advice is to actually go and stream them consistently and stay with them and follow them and go to their shows and buy their merch, because that conversion rate to me is really troubling.
Are promoters, some of the other gatekeepers other than streamers, are we looking at agencies, the promoters? Where's are they coming up to the forefront, and what's going on that front? Does Black radio need to play a role in this some kind of way? I know, I wanted to get your
question.
I
thoughts.
think it's a position of power. With change, there has to be positions that change. So we have to integrate into a system of whatever your position is. Now you have to go into that company and rise in the ranks so that whoever was in that position that doesn't want to play Black women's music, now they're not in that position anymore. They've gone of age or whatever, and now the new people coming in. And so I think what we're seeing is not just it's not just a generational shift, but it's also a multi-generational shift. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, why racism works against us is because most of the time we're not in a place of power. So we have to be in a place of power to, the people at the agencies have to say, yeah, let's book this artist. Let's book more of these type of artists. And not just the first time when it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? You have to stay with it. You have to still see something in other artists because it's about the power of music. And we've always been at the forefront in the power of music. And I feel like now it's just a division. You know what I'm saying? It's just like streaming isn't the best because now these artists eat less and less just from streaming. So radio plays a big play too. Yeah. So if you're just listening to the radio, calling in, like it worked with Beyonce because people was flooding them stations calling. And when you have the people, you can't hide. So then we have to start holding these people responsible and accountable for their positions. Because if you can't fulfill your positions on a global scale to other demographics, then you're not really fulfilling your position. And you need to be moved up out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
So that's how we got to really just come.
Ink, I want to stay with you. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have something you want to say?
I was just going to say, how stupid do you think Tiara and Tanner's labels feel right now?
Oh, I'm glad they made that decision because now they're empowered and now they have the power, because it's like you don't deserve to win if you keep missing opportunities. And if you keep being on a following train, you don't deserve to win with a leader. You know what I'm saying? So I love the fact that they ate down on this album. They got dropped from the same label and now they popping. Now they have the leverage and all of that. And even with that, I still see a problem with that because it's like, these 4 ladies have separate identities and they were put on the song. And now even like I see they just want to group them all together. But it's like you still have to recognize individuality. It's not just about, let's put this 4 together because Beyonce put these 4 together. It's the people at the labels, the people that's running the award shows. You have to have moments and find moments for people's individualities to show. And that's what I think is important for us as a culture. Like fashion plays a part. When people start dressing away, you start feeling away. And now you see, okay, the music reflects the times. So however we rocking, that's how the times are going to change, and that's how things are going to start to form and narrate around that. That's why in our culture, the way you dress has been so important because that comes with what reflects in the music. The way you talk, you know what I'm saying? Like the way you everything like that. So I think it's about really just empowering people's individuality and not trying to make everybody the same because there's nothing, that's going to come from that but division. So,
Ink, I want to stay with you. T-Pain.
Stay with me.
I'm not going anywhere. T-Pain has talked about how he ghost wrote a handful of country hits, but he took his name off of them because of the racism he encountered. What has your experience been like in Nashville when you've written in Nashville? And have you encountered that? Have you encountered artists who don't want to write with you or songwriters who don't want to write with you because you're black?
Well, I haven't yet that I know about because I usually go to Nashville. I'll be like a couple times, maybe once a year. So I'm just now getting back going to Nashville more. You know what I'm saying? But honestly, when I go to Nashville and work, I've been blessed to work with people that put music first. But like I said, I'm only coming in at this aspect of recommended people. Like, if it would be different if I just flew to Nashville, hit the town running, and was like, hey, you want to work? You want to write with me? You want to get a studio with me? They'd probably be like, hell no. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm coming from a place of people that I've already heard about me and that it's a difference. So just for some random girl that wants to write music, she probably feels that a lot more. You know what I'm saying? Because, with status and success, a lot of people try to hide their racism too. And it's like, okay, so it's up to me to bring other people that look like me, other young women that look like me, to kind of narrate the situation. But, like, if a motherfucker don't want to work with me, it's like, you don't want to make it to the top, baby, because, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you.
Let's go, E.
I only want to work with authentic. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be authentic. That's the best way to get the song. Like,
Can you talk about working with Casey Musgraves?
Oh, yeah, I love Casey. Shout out to Casey. I actually met Casey because Parkwood, Beyonce's company, sent us down there, and it was her idea for us to just go to Nashville and really be on the ground and working with the types of people, that so they're so talented.
I don't want to skip past that. You just said Parkwood sent y'all down there to work.
Yeah.
See, because I think there's a misconception about how this project came about and whether it's authentic or not, or whether people from Nashville or that energy was a part of it. But I didn't want to skip past that.
No, don't skip past. You know, with fear comes misconception. So, you know, a lot of people don't want to see the authenticity in it because they're forced to look at themselves. But yeah, she sent us down there because we was making country music. We wanted to bring that spirit, and I think everything she represents, she from the South, so she loves that, you know, songwriting, really getting in there, collaborating with people. You know, Casey was amazing. Like, we made like 5 songs in one day, and it was just like working with people like that. Like, I remember I was sitting down, we were writing a song, and we took a lunch break, and we were sitting on the couch, and we were eating our food, and Casey was eating her food, and Ian was eating his food. Dixon was in there, incredible artist, songwriter as well, eating our food. And I just started singing something. And Casey goes, "Stop, what's that?" And she goes, "Whatever that is, get on them, put that sandwich down." I was probably eating some chicken. Put the chicken down. Record that right now. And I was like, "You're not for real." She was like, "No, I'm 100% real. This is special, and you need to record this right now." So I recorded in one take. And it's actually going to be a song that I'm going to use for my album. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it takes. It takes people to recognize and to say, this is something special. Let's push it to the forefront. Let's rally around this until it becomes special. Because that's how I got here. I only got here by people recognizing the special. And I only got here by people wanting to help. You know what I'm saying? So,
But I'm going to be honest with you. They recognize the special because you've been consistent with your special. You feel me? You came into this. I've seen you with this cowboy hat on for years. You know what I'm saying? Way before any of this. Your energy. I maybe 10 years ago, you had a guitar. You were performing at Rico's birthday party. And I'm like, damn, you know, but you took it so serious then. You was committed to it then. It came out your pores then. And that's what people are responding to. So I just want you to know that.
No, that's what she said.
You
Always been country.
You walking in your walk right now, sis, in the real way.
Always been country, like she said, because that's who we are. You know, you don't just get in the studio and make stuff. You just replicate what you are. So I think that's what it is about. And a lot of people, you know, people was hating on the album. People didn't want to see it for what it was because they couldn't believe, like, a black female who has this much power to do any genre in the world would sit down and go to the core and make music like this. That pissed a lot of people off. But you're going to piss people off when you being you. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So.
Okay, Jada, I wanted to know if you could talk about, we had a question here, black and biracial artists that have had commercial success in country have been predominantly male, such as Darius Rucker, Kane Brown, Blanco Brown. So why do you think the black artists, female artists that we've been speaking about, why are they having such trouble gaining ground? What's the bigger issue? Is it race, misogyny, and even the white artists, the males and white females in country have had that same issue too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's racism and sexism combined. In addition to an industry that was racially segregated in the 1920s, this was also an industry that believed that women shouldn't be in the lead, and of course that meant white women shouldn't be in the lead. This was something that an A&R rep said about the Carters. And, like, they went on to be one of the most successful, like, family bands of the history of the industry. And so, you know, when you have, like, a racially segregated space that is then also perpetuating these beliefs that women can't sell, that their songs shouldn't be played back-to-back on radio, that their songs should be limited in airplay, you end up with, like, this really rigid and oppressive system. So it's challenging for white women. White women currently represent 9% of radio airplay, and it's nearly impossible for black women. So it's that you know, thinking about Kimberly Crenshaw's like intersectionality, it's the double bind of being a woman and a black woman specifically in this space that like is governed by white supremacy.
Do you see a new younger generation, next generation that's starting to come up and filter through and break through some of that systemic foundation, or is it too ingrained? Or
it feels too ingrained because they use the data that I'm talking about to make their business decisions. And so they have yet to figure out that you actually need to put in women and artists of color to actually see them on the charts. Like, you're never going to get a chart that's going to have Black artists or biracial artists or Mexican American artists if you aren't putting them on radio, if you are not signing them to your labels, if you are not investing in their careers. Garbage in, garbage out. You're never going to get it out if you're never going to put it in. Like, it's a really silly data science principle, but it works in this context. So I see no change in Nashville Music Row proper, but I see a lot of other things happening that are really, to me, heartening. Black Opry, I've said before, they celebrate their 3rd anniversary tomorrow.
Yes, make some noise for Black
Yeah.
Opry. Carmen Diane's a part of Black Opry.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So, founded by Holly G.
One time for Holly G. I'm sorry. Holly was in New York with us and rocked the Panther.
Yeah.
One time for Holly G.
And she built, when she started it, she was a flight attendant. She started a whole organization while, flying around the country. And now they're in their third anniversary. They've just launched a record label that's distributed by 30 Tigers. They're about to release that I believe that first artist's record. And so there's a lot of really great things going on. It's just not on Music Row.
Yeah, and I think for those of us who cover country music, what has been shocking is if you look at pop music, it goes in cycles. Like you see the charts, like it's a very strong time for female artists on pop. And the last time it was a strong time for female artists in country was in the 90s. I think we got up to, 33% of the chart was women. And
White women.
Yeah, white women, yeah. So it's been over 30 years since women have had any true presence at radio on the chart. And it's just kind of shocking. Like, you just kind of can't believe that it just kind of can't right itself. This is to all of you, so whoever wants to start with this. There's so many organizations fighting for change in Nashville, including BMAC, and Prophet. You may want to talk about some of your initiatives with Tennessee State University and with the Academy of Country Music. But there's also, Nashville Music Equality, the Black Opry that we've just mentioned, Change the Conversation, which has been around since 2014. Do any of you see any of them making progress, and what can be done to empower these organizations, including, BMAC, to actually affect change?
Well, I will answer first. Yes, I'm seeing progress. Let's take the TSU program. 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to go into Tennessee State University to take over the Maymester, which is a 3-week elective course. And we have brought in industry professionals and artists from all over the world to teach these classes for 3 weeks. We're going on our 3rd year. May 6th starts our 3rd year. The impact that has been made, the amount of jobs that have been secured, the amount of paid internships that has happened, the amount of exposure opportunities, networking, not that surface shit where, somebody. I'm talking about real deep to the point where you're calling people on a personal level. They're investing in you. They care about you. We have built community with those young people in Nashville, right? That's A. B, when we put out the 3 Chords report, like I said earlier, one of those calls to action was for Music Row to help us repair some of the damage that has been done historically here. And so if we're not addressing economics, to Sis' point, we're not addressing anything really. So first thing we need to do is deal with the economic disparities that's happening here. If you think the black country singer have a problem, what about the black rapper or the black R&B singer or the black woman who's trying to be a manager or the black guy who's trying to start a touring company? Those opportunities in Nashville were not happening. And we see progress. We see the consistency in staying on it. And we are making progress. And I'll also say Black Opry, I'm so proud of what Holly G has been able to build, And I think Billboard Power List is coming soon, the country power list, and somebody might pop up on that joint. And, because she has done the work for real, in a real way. And when you watch people like Carmen Diane come up here and sing, she's part of a movement. But they also just got booked for the tour. What was the tour that just happened with Aldine? Live Nation. What is the tour? Tell Gaga? The tour a couple weeks ago.
Are you talking about
Hey, that tour, right?
Tortuga?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. I don't know it, sis. Help me out. You see me struggling over here. All right, yeah, that's the one.
Tortuga Festival.
That's the one. I still won't repeat it, but that's the one right there. But they were booked for that tour, for that festival. You know, Black Opry, now they just came off a cruise all over. Like, what she has been able to do collectively in terms of, that's real progress. Those young people in Nashville not only have a voice but a platform, but they're getting paid, they're getting the attention, they're getting the opportunity. So for me, things like that inspire me and let me know that it's not all dismal.
And I think, so many, we were talking about how DEI initiatives have been fading away, but I don't see that in Nashville. They never really embrace them the way they should. But
Okay, I was about to say they ain't fading away because they didn't fade
right,
up.
But there are other initiatives. You can't talk about this without talking about someone like Leslie Fram at CMT, who has
1000%.
been incredibly supportive of women and people of color, and this.
And Cam.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Cam, who is just wonderful and is also on the Beyonce record. Yep. CMA, they all have these initiatives that are not just trying to help the artists, but are trying to, which is such an important point that you just brought up, get more executives into,
1000%.
Forget about C-suite. You just need to get them in the buildings.
The idea that Black executives can't run a country label is insane to me. The idea that Black country artists don't have a plethora of Black managers that they can select from is crazy to me, right? As if we don't have the ability to dance in all of these different rooms. All music is Black music, and that's just the reality of what we're dealing with here. We talked about it, that banjo, 1,000% irrefutable evidence of where that banjo came from. So, I mean, we don't have to get super, deep with it, but that's in fact what has happened and how we got here. So when I see artists like with Ink put out a single with the Chainsmokers, right? Look at her. She puts out a single with the Chainsmokers that's kicking ass, by the way. The single's what, 8, 9, 10 million?
Billion.
16, I'm sorry, let's get it right. Let's do the right thing. All right? But in this package, though, she didn't go in any other package, just the same package she's been wearing since I met her. So it's before that. But she's able to walk into these rooms unapologetically herself and add value. No matter what genre we're talking about. We're talking about music right now. So when I see her, that's progress. When I seen that single, the Beyonce record, no, that was great. But when I seen her release a single with Chainsmokers, I said, come on, somebody. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, and I also want to say you co-wrote that song. So it isn't, you don't just appear on it. Didn't you co-wrote? Addicted, yes. Yeah. So it's you, Zerb, Chainsmokers, and then you and the Chainsmokers and Zerb co-wrote it. So how does that change your life when you have a song that gets streamed 16 billion times?
Well, I think anytime someone sees you for what you add, it changes your life. It might not be right then, but it might be longer down the line. So I think just being seen is a start for us. You know what I'm saying? So when somebody sees you and says, I see you for who you are, I'm going to put you on this song. I was going to get somebody else to do it, but they can't do it like you. So I'm going to let you shine and do that. That's what we have to do for each other. And that's just what comes with empowering each other. And I think artists empower artists. Executives need to empower executives. Executives should empower artists. And the thing, what you were saying, it was like, we need to be in the building, but a lot of times the building wasn't built for us to enter. You see what I'm saying? So it's like people protect what they think is theirs. So if it was never designed for us to be in there, they just protecting what they feel like is theirs. So now it's up to us to just come in and do our own thing. We got to open up our own Black country labels. It ain't got to be just for Black. If you white, I'll sign you too, baby, if you rocking. But it's got to know that we have visions for ourselves and for our communities. You know what I'm saying? So I just went to Nashville. We had meetings. Shout out to BMI. I felt like what they were doing, they were changing things from their perspective.
What were they doing?
Well, they were just like, fuck this old town. We want you to come in and bring what you do. And I felt welcome because I walked in the room in the meeting, it was all white people. And the dude kept saying, Candace is going to be in a little bit. Candace is, I'm like, why you keep telling me about Candace? And then sure enough, about 30 minutes later, here come Candace, a Black lady. She was in charge of the marketing. And I instantly said, okay, see, now I can rock with you because you got somebody that understands where I'm coming from. And if you can understand where I'm coming from, I can help you get to where you're going. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like seeing that visibility and that representation. So it's like we also got to just be empowering each other with positions, you know, so that we can put each other on.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel like, you know, it's pretty much. And another thing, too, when people be like, why is country music blowing up? Like, why are black artists now doing country? It's not that we've been doing country, but what happens is with each genre, over cycles, you'll have one genre that's at the top. So you have, at one point, rap. Rap was just taking over everything. They couldn't figure out why the hell all the songs at the top was rap. It was hip-hop, you feel me? So now you got that phase dying out because, you know, the hood shit, motherfuckers dying, motherfuckers. And then it's like, okay, bet. The people in power are realizing this is a little risky because I just gave this motherfucker $16 million and he done got out of a shootout. I don't want to waste my money like that no more. Let's go find, they weren't saying, let's go find a black singer who can sing country. They never said that shit in the office. They was just like, go find little Craig down the street and give him a gun and just let him rap so we could go make our money. They were never interested in music, and that's why I tell people music is different from the music industry. Music business is different from the music. So if we want to see the artists like myself grow, we have to be invested in the music business and to get that power structure back. So we can say, go find this type of artist and let's speak life into this type of artist. You know what I'm saying? And it's not tied to a secret agenda that motherfuckers don't know about.
Yeah.
Great point.
Do you mind if I ask Jada something? Jada, and this is putting you on the spot. You know, when we were talking about, you know, black executives, do you have any research on that? I don't know if you have any research on that. We know it's abysmal.
It's abysmal. I really don't.
Okay.
I could name people, but I feel like that would be disingenuous. What I actually want to pull on the thread that is coming through these comments. We've been talking a lot about artists, and of course songwriters as well, because that's, you know, what you're known for in Nashville is songwriting. But these are just two possible roles. Like, what about the studio musicians? What about the touring musicians? What about the producers, the engineers, the mixers? And like, in addition to the folks that work at labels, work at publishers, like, this is just, it's a sea of whiteness in that city, in all of these spaces. And that needs to change in all of these levels, because black musicians aren't getting jobs with country artists right now. Right. This is a problem. They move there to be a country musician, and then they can't get hired because the labels or the producers or whoever's working in those spaces doesn't see it because they don't believe it's possible. And then they don't know music. Exactly. And I think the last thing that I want to say is regarding to what you said about, you know, black artists have always been here. And I think this is a really important moment to say a few names.
Come on, name them.
I'm just going to name the black women who have charted in country music. Let's start with Linda Martell, who charted 3 songs in 69, 70. Then it was Ruby Falls, who charted 9 songs in the 1970s. The Pointer Sisters in 1974, and they won a Grammy for that record. Then we have 1987. We have Donna Mason and Nisha Jackson, who each charted 1 song. In 1988, Kathy B charted a song. In 2008, Reese Palmer charted 3 songs. Right. And then in 2015, Mickey Guyton charted a song. And then in 2024, Beyonce charted Texas Hold'em. I have literally just named every, excuse my language, fucking black woman who has ever charted in the history of that industry.
Wow.
Every one of them.
And if you notice, the claps stopped because we started to understand where we were going with this. This is why we invited y'all here this evening, y'all. I know it's, Mickey's an important artist to us, and we wanted her to have a safe space in the room. She hasn't done any interviews around the Beyonce album or any of that. She wanted to have a safe space to really be able to express herself. But what we wanted to make sure you guys left with tonight was information about what's going on right now so you understand your role here. Not just to listen to this and say, damn, that was a dope, had some great food, some drinks, some good people, and we left, but really understanding this moment is up to us to own. Because we've been here before on their watch. But if we, to Ink's point, yes, we watched this industry make a lot of money. They made it off our backs. They owe us. So before we start, we're going to build our own, but before we get, they owe us. And we need to get that straight, right? 2020, they promised. Remember, see, one thing that we won't do is ever forget the public declaration that the music industry made to Black America in 2020. They all posted those same squares that said they stand in solidarity with their Black brothers and sisters. We are holding them accountable to that. Yeah, we're going to build our own. We're not victims, but we are holding you accountable because this industry was built on the backs of Black America. And we are coming for what's ours. And this example of what's going on with Beyonce is a small glimpse of the genius. Listen, I told people all the time, I never listened to a Beyonce record from top to bottom. I'll be honest with you. I never listened to an album. My wife said, what you talk about? She said, hey, sis, I missed it. I'm from the Bronx. I got to keep it gangster. I say I'm a killer bee right now. I ain't going to say I'm part of the beehive, but I'm going to say I'm a killer bee. That was one of the greatest albums I've listened to, top to bottom. It's incredible. And she was right to say this is not a country album, it's a Beyonce album, because it walked through all kind of musical moments, and he was all over the place with that thing. It was genius. But that's a glimpse of what happens when you allow us to show up, right? When we show up and the world sees it. So I just want to say to all of you here that this panel was built for you all to leave with the information. And before you leave, I want us to get some questions in for this panel. Is that all right? So let me come out here real quick. Do we have any questions? I think Dr. Minna got something to say. Can y'all make some noise for Dr. Minna, who's head of the UMG Task Force for Change?
Thank you, Prophet, for putting this together. Ink, you're a boss. Everything you say resonates. Thank you for showing up the way you do. Earlier in the conversation, you all were talking about sort of building our own versus integrating, and also to the doctor. I'm a doctor too, and I love that we have people like you in the research and academic spaces to really make these sound arguments that data provides us. Can you talk about what you think an ideal world looks like 10, 20 years? Like, what is the call to action in terms of the pathway and avenue? So you talked about the DSP piece, but just holistically in the sort of music and entertainment space, what do you hope to see change specifically?
Great question.
I've only ever been answered this question once before. No one ever wants to know what I want to change. They just want me to say numbers. And it really, truthfully, is a hard one to answer because I don't think I will ever see it in my lifetime. I mean, I don't know how one ends segregation, but I feel like there needs to be some kind of mechanism for dismantling the segregation that lies under the industry. But it's so deeply entrenched in those stupid genre classification labels, which I love as a listener because I love music of all genres. But as somebody who's trying to think about ways forward, I don't see a way out of a system that still puts people in boxes based on the color of their skin. And that's what this industry does. And one of the historical examples of this is like Ray Charles, whose Modern Sounds album in the 60s or Solomon Burke or Esther Phillips or the Supremes or Tina Turner. All of them made country records, all of them. Tina's first solo goddamn record was country. But because of who they were and where they started, their music got tagged R&B or soul and pushed out of the space that they rightfully should have been in with those records. So I really don't have an answer, and I really wish that I had one, because the simple answer would be, outside of the genre classification, we need to think about holistic change. It can't just be adding and stirring. We've seen what happens. They throw Mickey Guyton in, but then they don't support her. Right. So you can't add and stir the missing ingredients to the industry. It's never going to change because the system is white supremacist. If that system doesn't change, then adding in whomever is missing is just going to be like another Tiara or Tanner being booted from their album, booted from their label, because they won't perform the way the white industry expects them to, because they're not designed to support them. So it's a holistic effort. Everybody needs to change. Radio needs to change how they program, but how they also test audiences. Labels need to become more diverse so they can sign artists and then not put those artists in unsafe spaces, because let's face it, the touring circuit for country is a really problematic space for most Black audiences and Black musicians. So it really is holistic. You have to think about every level, from the artist to the songwriter to producer, everyone making the music, selling the music, promoting the music, distributing the music, and where it's performed. It needs to be a wholesale, wide sweeping effort to understand the way in which this system is not safe in its current structure.
Excellent. Dr. Minna, can you please stand real quick? Because this is what we talk about change. Dr. Minna comes from the academic world. She's down in D.C. She was handling policy, working with Congresswoman Barbara Lee. She was doing all the stuff in terms of on the policy side. When 2020 happened, Universal brought her in to run the task force. She was our 2023 recipient of our Social Impact Award for the work that she is doing. She came into the music industry and bringing a level of realism and understanding of how to really be activists and how to really get out of your own way and get to the actual root of the problem. So thank you, Dr. Minna, for that. And we have another question. We have Dr. Marcus Hunter, who's the professor of African American Studies at UCLA. He also coined the term Black Lives Matter.
Thanks, Robert. Peace, everybody. I actually had a question that was connected to what the good doctor said right before, and then how you responded around classification. I just wonder, is it possible to reframe existing catalogs so that it can confuse the algorithm? For example, I thought of Ain't Gonna Stand For It, Stevie Wonder. Or I've always, and I'm just a super duper Whitney Houston fan. Nicole David, you know I'm here, you know how I feel about her. But it is curious to me that she does not change anything, and I Will Always Love You, and it's never understood as a country song. And my question is like, can you invoke Primary Wave, since now they own so much of the catalog, to push it through reclassification? Slow Hand, Pointer Sisters, thank you for shouting out 1974, but then 1981, they don't get it, and then a white man does the song the very 6 months later, and it's #1 on the country chart, which means it was always a #1 country song. So not just about inventing the songs that are coming, how can we go back and reclassify existing tracks that we know are country?
I love this.
Dr. Marcus, y'all.
Yeah.
And by the way, before you answer that, Dr. Marcus and BMAC and David over at the National Black Justice Coalition is launching the Equity March in D.C. This Juneteenth. And I think Sean G is still in the building. Live Nation Urban is also partnering with us on that. So he's not just a professor inside the room, he's also on the streets as well, making it happen. But Dr. Jada, please.
Yeah. I really love that, because that is, I think, entirely possible. The piece that needs to join it is retraining the algorithms of the DSPs as well to not say, because obviously it's not the DSP is not racially coding artists, but because of the boxes that the categorical boxes that these artists are put in, it recommends based on those categories. So one brilliant way would be to reclassify all of those records, everything. And some of them have been. Some of them do have the country category. But then there needs to be new training systems underneath that recognizes that, like, Ray Charles can sit next to Willie Nelson. And it's not like Ray Charles, Solomon Burke, you know. There needs to be also a retraining of that system that lies underneath those classifications. But I love that. We should, like, figure out how we do that.
Y'all should conspire. I think y'all can get some real good trouble together. Like, I'm telling you, like, y'all can. And speaking of that, Whitney Houston, for those who don't know, that famous song that she did with Dolly Parton, we have the legendary film agent, Miss Nicole David, in the room, who was Whitney's agent and fought like hell to ensure that she didn't just do roles that was for black women, but she did roles that was for women. In the room with us, we have one of the co-founders of BMAC, Mr. Damian Smith, who's also manager for, say.
How you guys doing? They call me the head of music, but for Beyonce, this is Ricky Lawson.
Come on, Demi. I can step up here, Dave. Head of music and A&R for Parkwood. Both of y'all step up here for a minute.
Yo, Ricky, come up real quick. We're not gonna say much because you know we're not allowed to say a lot. So, but this is beautiful to see and hear the conversation, knowing what, you know, we just encountered. I've been with them for about 2.5 years, and some of this music, as Ink stated, was worked on, you know, over time. But again, I'm not gonna say too much, but it's beautiful to see the conversation. It's great to see what's going on right now. This is it's intentional for certain reasons. Please don't quote me in this. You gotta take the cameras on that stuff down. But I wanna say it is beautiful to see the impact without anything ever being said, letting the music speak. You know, there's power in that. So to see what happened when Texas in 16 dropped, you know, to see the other artists' platforms, to see all it recent today, to see what's happening with Shabuzi on the Hot 100, being, was he at 36, 39? You know, let's clap for Shabuzi.
Facts.
You know, that's a big moment. So I will say, you know, everybody does have to do the work, and as long as we continue to do the work, you know, it's going to rise. Everybody said something very significant and very impactful and very truthful in this room that matters. What you're saying about radio, all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah. But the music speaks, so you can't stop that. You can't stop this energy that Prophet has, the vision. So hands up for Prophet. But again, thank you all for supporting this, and Cowboy Carter, please continue to stream it and do it, because you got to keep press and play on that. You got to keep press and play, because press and play there is going to help everybody else. We know what it is. So everybody here has to do your part in that. Ricky, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Carmen, you were amazing. Ink, you're a superstar. And I think, to echo what everyone's saying, we can't just sit in these rooms and have these conversations. We have to go out and be the change that we want to see. So thank you.
Thank you all.
I don't know if you was here for this, Damian and Ricky, but Ink, she let a little cat out the bag when she was saying that the team went down to Nashville. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I thought that was important that it was said in this room that there was a true connection to Nashville that was being made deliberately and intentionally, not just, let me just do this project. So I'm happy Ink was able to share that was a call made, not just, that was an intentional call to be down there and get that energy. So give these brothers a round of applause. Give Beyonce, the whole Parkwood team, a strong round of applause. Hold on.
I want to say one more thing, because I'm the head of music, Ricky's the A&R, but just understand our director of A&R is Mariel Gomez, who's brilliant. She's what I call an Avenger. She's an alien. So
Fact.
that music that you hear on Renaissance, the music that you hear here, the music that you hear whenever you hear the next wave of music, you know, we have a strong black female who's different, who is super bold and has amazing taste in music. So she has a very big hand in this music and these songs, and Ink can vouch for it. She knows, because Ink is family with us. So it's the energy, but it's a female behind it. You see two dudes standing here, but you know the queen, how she operates, so.
Come on, make some noise for y'all. We have one more question. Thank you for that, Damien and Ricky.
Hi, y'all. I just want to say to you, to women specifically on the left, allyship is a thing. I appreciate your efforts. I know it's risky. Thank you so much for speaking truth and being authentic in it and not emulating, but actually like living in what change looks like. It's really powerful for people who are just kind of always working for it. So I just need to take a moment literally in this room and acknowledge it, because I know it's not easy. And I know you face a lot of shit at the crib about it. So just thank you for being part of the change. And then, yeah, like, no, for real, that's risky for them. So I think we should acknowledge that. And I don't know how to make it feel more impactful, but it's big for you to be in the space of allyship, that you sit, that you choose to sit. And I know it's a choice, so just thank you. The question that I have for you all are executives, Inc. But to the executives on the stage, my question is that in moments where there is a disruptor in your presence, and that moment happens and it shakes the room and it shifts the moment because it is uncomfortable, it is a bit, I don't know, disruptive, right? How is it that you as executives, how is it that you are standing in those moments with the disruptors? How are you consciously choosing to understand what the overarching theme of supremacy and systematic, etc., looks like? But how do you sit in those moments where it's uncomfortable, it's disruptive, but it's right, and you know it's right? What does it look like for you to be in that space and moving forward and being willing, one, to speak out in those spaces and to support in those spaces, and two, to take the conversation to the people who can actually change it? Because that would be the action that I would like for you all to take away, is to have conversation in rooms that look like this, yes, but have rooms and conversations where we are not present, because that is the only space, honestly. We could talk until we blue in the face. We've been talking for hundreds of years. We blue as fuck in the face. And the only way it's gonna change is not continuing to ask us what it's like, what do you need, what would you like to see change? Because you know all of that, you can recant it, I'm clear. The fact that it made me emotional that you literally listed every black, like, the fact that you chose to store that and to recant it, and that you're choosing to be that way in what you do in data. Like, that's very A-type, that's not hip hop, that's not soul, like, you're the teacher pet in the room. People don't like you off the bat, but what you do is extremely valuable.
I really wasn't the teacher's pet.
Good looking out. That was impressive, that was humbling, that was beautiful, thank you. But my question again, and I tried not to center myself, and it's hard to because I want to say so many things, but
We'll talk.
I didn't expect to come in here and cry. I didn't expect to walk in this room and be upset and angry to the point where I needed to shrink in the corner so I wouldn't shout out in the middle of the conversation. But I felt that way multiple times, and I know that these conversations are hard to pull together. And so, as an executive, what are you taking away from this moment that you know when the next disruption happens, that you can stand sure-footed in it and not sink into the comfort? You've been in this game a long time. I met you when I was a child.
Now you're dating me.
I remember you, and that's the question.
Anybody that knows me in this room knows that I started, it's my 25th anniversary on Friday, the 26th at Billboard, okay? And everybody that knows me knows I was brought on to build a relationship with the Black music community with Billboard that really didn't have a strong one at that point in time. So that's always been my platform. It has been, still is. I'm not going anywhere I don't want to. Okay. And the whole country thing, that's why we're partners with BMAC in this. I've been with BMAC from the beginning, talking about everything they're trying to do and push. I try to do, I do roundtables. It's always been my platform. And I just spoke at my alma mater, LMU, Monday with Chris Riddick Tynes from Arista, with Tina Davis from Empire. And the whole thing, country, all this, hip hop, it's imperative that we build some generational wealth and do our own thing. There was Black Wall Street in Tulsa. We can do that again. We've got the power, but sometimes we don't help ourselves. We don't trust each other, and there's a lot of that going on too. So I want to help and continue spreading the word. I know Melinda does too from the countryside. I'll let her speak on that end as well, but that's me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. We love you.
Comments. Yes, we do love Gail. I think, as an ally, and again, thank you for those comments, and as someone who leads the country coverage, I'm based here, but go back and forth to Nashville. It actually helps to be here a lot of the time because I'm seeing it from an aerial view, and I'm very aware of what's going on. And so I think the best thing that we can do and what we try to do is amplify a diversity of voices. Like we instantly got on the phone, and really not to put them all in the same box, but we were the only outlet. Like we instantly got on the phone the day the Beyonce album dropped and talked to Tanner and Tierra and Brittany and Raina, what that experience was like for them, what hope that gave them, what Beyonce meant to them. But we'd written about all of them before. This was not our first dance with any of these women. In terms of Brittany, we've broken more news on Brittany, in terms of when she, so we very much try, like when Brittany signed her booking agency deal, we do a separate story on that, or, we don't just shove it into, I don't want to say shove it because these are actually very good franchises that we have, but we have something called artist deals that announces when an artist signs a label or signs with the booking agency or sign. We have a separate one for publishing. But a lot of times we'll make the conscious decision to really kind of amplify this so that people see what's happening, because also there's going to be a photo. If you're pushed into publishing briefs, there's only going to be one photo at the top, and you're going to get your own little segment of a story. This is getting too much in the weeds. But what I'm saying is these are very conscious decisions that are made, and we can always do better. But I think from the top, like this decision was made with Hannah, our editorial director, to have us be involved with this. So this is something that comes from the top down. And it's something that, I think we all feel very committed to. And with country, I'm very aware that I'm white. This is not a surprise to anyone in this room. And I'm very aware of trying to be conscious of the platform and to use it as well as I can while it's my space, but also to be very aware that I am coming at it from a very different angle, and the best I can do is to amplify these artists and these executives, and just when my time at Billboard is over, to have really tried to highlight them. And so, much more emotional, longer answer than you wanted, but the truth.
We appreciate you. For those, listen, I'll be honest with you, media in our community hasn't always had the best relationship, right? So we didn't seek, partners with media companies. That's not our focus. But we do connect with people, right? And so, Gail is not lying. From the moment we started BMAC, she has been there to amplify, to listen, to hear, to help even with advice in terms of a broad picture of the landscape. Melinda, we broke the story. She had the exclusive for our partnership with the ACM. Her work that in terms of following the stuff that we doing in Nashville, is authentic. I've had conversations with Melinda on the phone for a couple of hours, just talking about life. And so I've come to understand, to Sis' point, about what allyship looked like in real time, you know? And to your point, Hannah, who's the editorial director, you know it when you see it. And you can, because I wouldn't trust an outlet with this conversation. This is not what this is about. This is not about a media play, right? But I do believe in what Hannah and what Melinda and what Gail is doing at Billboard. And I wanted that to be a part of what we were doing here. I believe in what Jada, the information, the irrefutable evidence that she had provided us as a guideline, as a blueprint for us to look at, to see where this thing have gone wrong and how we can get it right. Invaluable. Ink in real time. In real time, she's living it. In real time, she is that wildest dream of the slave. Okay? While she's down there in Nashville, kicking ass the way she is, unapologetically doing it the way she do. She is living it in the moment right now. So this was an intentional panel. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We have a copy of 3 Chords and the Actual Truth. We need you all to pick that up. I know it's a long time since we actually had the hard copy stuff and read it and, you know, not the phone, but read that, highlight it, you know, take notes. Send it to your friend, have conversations, have dinner parties like this. Invite 20, 30 people to your crib and bring that report out and discuss it and have real conversations. That's how we get to the next level, right? Is that not how we get there? Can y'all please get to your feet and give these women a strong, strong round of applause?